In an underground elevator full of supplies, a teenage boy suddenly wakes up with no memory of who he is or how he got there. As the elevator rapidly ascends, he hears a strange noise and investigates, only to find a startled pig hiding among the boxes. When the elevator finally stops and the doors open above, dozens of other teenage boys stare down at him. One of them, a boy named Gally, roughly pulls him out, sarcastically calling him Greenie. Terrified, the newcomer immediately panics and starts to run, desperate to escape. However, he quickly realizes there's nowhere to go. He's trapped in a grassy clearing known as the glade, surrounded on all sides by massive stone walls. The other boys throw him into a cage, where he's soon visited by Albie, the leader. Albie questions him, but the new boy nervously admits he remembers nothing, not even his name. Albie calmly explains that it's normal. Everyone in the glade arrived without memories, except for their names, which return after a few days. Albie agrees to release the new boy if he promises not to run again. Once freed, Albie gives him a brief tour, explaining how things work. Every month, a supply elevator called The Box delivers fresh provisions and a new amnesiac boy, always nicknamed Greenie. The boys survive by farming, hunting, and building shelters. However, no one knows who sends them or why they're here. During the tour, the new boy notices an imposing door in the massive wall. Albie sternly warns him of the 3 rules: do your part, never harm another boy, and most importantly, never enter the door. Despite Albie's strict warning, the newcomer can't stop wondering what's behind it. Later, a friendly younger boy named Chuck continues the tour, casually mentioning that behind the walls lies a giant maze. Only a select group of boys, the runners, are allowed to enter the maze each morning to map it out, desperately seeking an exit. Drawn to the maze door, the Greenie approaches it, but Gally roughly pushes him away, reminding him again of the rules. The Greenie, frustrated, demands answers, but their discussion is cut short when the massive maze doors close, sealing off the exit. That night, the boys throw a celebratory party to welcome the new arrival. Thomas learns more from another boy named Newt, who explains the runner's task. For 3 years, they've mapped the maze daily, but every night the walls move, making it nearly impossible to solve. Even worse, anyone caught inside after dark is killed by deadly monsters known as grievers. The Greenie expresses his desire to become a runner, but Newt explains that runners are specially chosen. Soon, Gally challenges the newcomer to a wrestling match. Though inexperienced, the Greenie manages to hold his own, impressing the group briefly by pinning Gally down. However, Gally quickly retaliates, knocking the newcomer to the ground. The boy hits his head hard, and the impact triggers a memory. His name is Thomas. That night, Thomas dreams of a strange laboratory and a mysterious woman's voice repeating, "Wicked is good." The next morning, Albie shows Thomas a wall covered with names of all the boys, including some crossed out, those who didn't survive. While working, Thomas is suddenly attacked by Ben, a boy who has become sick and violent after being stung by a griever. Ben rages at Thomas, cryptically accusing him of causing their predicament. Thomas narrowly escapes, alerting the others who quickly restrain Ben. They discover Ben is undergoing the changing, a violent reaction caused by griever venom. Knowing there's no cure, they reluctantly banish Ben into the maze, sealing his fate as the doors close at sunset. The following day, Albie enters the maze to investigate Ben's unusual daytime attack. He fails to return before sunset, alarming everyone. Just before the doors shut, Thomas sees runner Minho carrying a wounded Albie towards the exit. With no time to spare, Thomas impulsively runs into the maze to help, becoming trapped overnight with them. Inside, Thomas learns Albie has been stung and is unconscious. As grievers approach, Thomas cleverly lifts Albie up onto a wall of ivy to hide him. But when a terrifying griever appears, Minho panics and flees, leaving Thomas alone to survive. After a harrowing chase, Thomas successfully tricks the griever into a deadly trap, crushing it between shifting walls, the first time anyone has ever killed one. The next morning, Thomas and Minho return triumphantly with Albie. Thomas's courage and quick thinking earn the respect of many, but Gally is furious, insisting Thomas be punished for breaking the rules. However, Minho argues Thomas should be made a runner. During the debate, their attention is abruptly diverted when the box unexpectedly arrives again, earlier than usual. Inside, they find not supplies but a single unconscious girl, Teresa, who shocks everyone by briefly waking and calling Thomas by name before collapsing again. She carries a note stating ominously, "She's the last one ever." Determined to learn more, Thomas and Minho lead a team back into the maze, retrieving a mechanical device from the dead griever. They notice it bears the same letters found on their supplies, WCKD. Thomas believes that whoever placed them in the glade also controls the grievers. Later, Teresa wakes up confused and frightened, her only clear memory matching Thomas's dream of the lab and the strange woman. Teresa also reveals she found 2 mysterious vials labeled WCKD. Thomas theorizes the vials might counteract the venom, injecting one into Albie, who temporarily recovers. Thomas spends a night in confinement for breaking the rules, but Chuck secretly visits, sharing his dream of reuniting with the parents he can't remember. Deeply moved, Thomas promises Chuck he'll find a way to get them all home. The next day, officially a runner, Thomas and Minho venture deep into the maze, discovering a hidden passage in a section that shouldn't yet be open. A secret door leads to a mysterious tunnel, but an alarm triggers the walls to close, nearly trapping them. Narrowly escaping death again, they rush back to share their discovery. Albie, now awake, begs them not to leave, hinting darkly that Thomas had something to do with their situation. But before Thomas can respond, chaos erupts. The maze doors remain open at nightfall, allowing grievers to pour into the glade. Boys scatter in terror, many captured or killed by the monstrous creatures. Thomas, Teresa, Chuck, and several others narrowly survive the horrific night, but Albie sacrifices himself heroically to protect Chuck. Gally, having survived by hiding in the box, blames Thomas for all the tragedy. Desperate for answers, Thomas injects himself with griever venom, hoping the near-death experience will restore his memories. His gamble works. When he recovers, Thomas reveals that WCKD, a scientific organization, placed them all in the maze as part of a twisted experiment to find a cure for a catastrophic disease. Thomas and Teresa, both once part of WCKD, were sent into the glade after helping design the experiment. Realizing their only hope is to escape, Thomas rallies half of the remaining boys, deciding to risk everything for freedom, despite Gally's protests. Together, they bravely venture back into the maze, encountering heavy resistance from grievers guarding the tunnel entrance. A fierce battle ensues on a narrow bridge, and several boys lose their lives fighting the monsters. Amidst the chaos, Chuck retrieves the crucial device to open the tunnel door, narrowly avoiding falling into the abyss. Teresa successfully enters the correct numerical code based on the maze's sections and unlocks the exit just in time. The survivors flee through the newly opened door, which leads into a futuristic lab filled with dead scientists. A recording begins, featuring the mysterious woman from Thomas's dreams, Dr. Ava Page. She explains that the maze was a trial designed to find a cure for a deadly virus called the flare, which ravaged humanity after catastrophic solar flares. The boys represent an immune generation, their brains studied to unlock a cure. Her message ends ominously as she seemingly takes her own life. Just as they begin processing this shocking truth, Gally, now stung and delirious, arrives armed with a gun, insisting there's no escape. He fires at Thomas, but Minho swiftly kills him with a spear. Tragically, the stray bullet hits young Chuck, who collapses into Thomas's arms. With his final breaths, Chuck hands Thomas the carved doll meant for his lost parents, thanking him before dying. Devastated, Thomas mourns the loss of his young friend, overwhelmed by guilt and grief. Suddenly, armed soldiers storm the lab, quickly escorting the remaining survivors outside to safety. A helicopter awaits, ready to evacuate them from the nightmare. As the teens leave behind the horrors of the maze, Dr. Ava Page, very much alive, observes remotely. Speaking to her colleagues, she confirms the maze trial was a success. Thomas and the others have taken the bait, setting the stage perfectly for the next phase of their sinister plan. Unaware of the manipulation, Thomas and his friends ascend into the unknown, believing they've finally escaped the nightmare, not realizing their journey is far from over.